Well, hello! Welcome, dear patrons! Welcome, channel members, and you! Yes, you that look so hard and wide because you're one of the smart ones that found this video. Welcome! This is my second Storytime video. If you're wondering where's the first one, it was the day I got hacked. That's the first Storytime. Bummer, I know, but hey, we're here, you're here. Welcome, because you want to know, you're nosy, you want to know what the hell happened between all that and now as to, how this project, how this figure set came to be. Let me just tell you, this story time is going to put a lot of people in a bad light, me included. You know those am I the asshole posts you see on Reddit where people ask, hey, am I the asshole? And then all of a sudden the consensus in the comment section is, and the votes are, that everybody's the asshole in that story. Yeah. Everybody in this story is an asshole, me included. And I'm pretty sure that some of the people that are involved in this story are probably hate watching right now. And if you're one of them, hi, how you doing? To be able to tell this story, I need to tell you about the time where there was this model kit forum that was extremely active. It was super, super big back in the day. We're talking about 2010, 2012. That's how long back this story begins at. 2010. We're talking about more than 10 years in the making. Okay, so this forum existed back in the day, and everybody that was everybody in the international model kit community would join in and share all sorts of things. We would share tutorials, guides, questions galore, and answers galore. And we would obviously share our completed works. Honestly, looking back on it, it was the golden time of the international garage kit community. So it was an amazing time. I was having an amazing time, and everybody from all around the world would gather in this forum to commune in this model kit little piece of heaven that we had. Okay, let me tell you why this is an important thing to note in this story. In our international community, when I say international community, it's because I am excluding everybody in Japan. Japan doesn't care about the rest of the world, so we outside of Japan gathered together in this forum, and many of us became friends and a lot of other people became enemies. Yes, the model kit community is full of drama, and this is just one bit of that drama. In this community, in this international community where everybody came in, there was a small group of people inside this community that made themselves a community inside a community. And these members, these people, let's just say that they did things that did not go well with the rest of us, me included. Now you're asking yourself, what the hell did they did? I mean, were they doing things that made everybody else pissed off? Yes. Were they being assholes? Some of them. Now, what could a group of model builders do to other model builders that would probably piss off a lot of them? Let me tell you. I don't want to give a lot of information about who they were, but now this community was located in Europe. I don't know if I should say who they were or not, because like I said, they're probably hate watching right now, but yeah, this community in a European country, you know what? It was the Germans, okay? It was the goddamn Germans. It was the Germans. They were having this little group inside our group, okay? Okay, so the Germans. It sounds really bad when I say it like that, but hear me out, okay? In this community, there were these Germans in our forum. Now, these Germans had their own forum and their own community outside of our forum. And these people, some of the members, were assholes. To put it lightly, they were assholes. How were they being assholes to the rest of us? I'm not going to say which forum this was because it doesn't exist anymore. Let's just say it was from a very controversial site. That's all I'm gonna say right now. And what would happen before was that the German community would get together and buy out original garage kits of a particular franchise. And they would get together and they would reproduce these figures. However, unless you were part of the German community, you would be excluded from ever joining in their projects. And the kits that they got were very rare kits. Like I said, from a certain franchise, I'm not gonna say, it was Sailor Moon, okay? Sailor fucking Moon had a lot of rare garage kits that the Germans kind of got their hands on them. And in between all of them, they decided to reproduce these figures and sell them or, order them just between them. And when I say it was an asshole move, it was because they would come in, some of the members of this community would come into our global international forum and basically shove it on our faces that they had obtained certain garage kits that you weren't able to do so otherwise. Now, they wouldn't do this often, they would do this once in a while, but there were certain times where they got together and they produced their own original garage kits. And when I say that they got together and produced their own original garage kits, they made several, I'd say 4. I counted 4, maybe there were more, I don't know. 4 garage kits that they would order together, and they would commission an artist, a sculptor, to make a master and have it reproduced so that they can buy it and sell it and order it between them only. The rest of us on this forum didn't know about their operations. We just knew that all of a sudden, a lot of the German members that would post on our forum would post pictures of the same unknown new garage kit that we were all like, where'd you get it? I mean, where can I buy it? Where'd you get it? I mean, it's amazing. And all of them were like, oh, sorry, no, this was a private sale. And everybody outside that forum was like, where'd they get it? I mean, I've never seen this garage kit ever. And all of a sudden, all these German people are coming in and posting it and shoving it down our faces like, hey, I got this and you don't, haha. It pissed off a lot of people, myself included. One day in this forum, I remember scrolling through and all of a sudden I see someone post a picture of a Lady Amalthea figure. And I'm just gonna post it here. That's the Lady Amalthea figure that I saw. By that time, my boyfriend had already showed me the movie. And I was like, oh, this is from the character of that movie you love so much. And when I showed it to him, he almost bawled his eyes out. It was like, oh my God, where can we get it? Where can we buy it? I don't care how much money it costs, just let's get it. And I was like, well, I don't know where they got it from. I didn't even know it existed. So I started to go into all these posts. There were like 4 or 5 posts of German members showing off their painted Amalthea figure. And I started to read the comments, and there were people just like my boyfriend that wanted one of these figures. And some of these members were like, no, sorry, this is just for the Germans. And that's when I tried to look for, trying to see where these people were getting these figures. And that's when I discovered that in their own little forum, in their community outside ours, they were doing all this behind closed doors. And only the people that were part of their forum could actually order and buy and be part of these projects. So when a lot of us tried to go into their forum, into their German forums, and try to sign up for these projects, they automatically put a wall on our faces and they were like, no, if you were not a member of this forum for so much time before this, you're not gonna get access to this. So they basically, cock-blocked us for this project and several other more. So when all this became public knowledge that the Germans were doing this, and it was one thing for them to do their own projects and be happy about it and, you know, share it in between them. It was another that some of, I'm not gonna say everybody, it was another thing that some of their members were assholes and would, you know, brag about having those figures just for them. I wasn't the only person that felt really bad because I was excluded just because I wasn't a German member of their forums. There were a lot of us that got really pissed off and called them out and be like, hey, I mean, it's one thing if you want to do this project for yourself, but it's another thing when you want to shove it down our faces and be like, hey, we have this and you don't. And there was a lot of resentment from a lot of us, me included, again, from a lot of us to the German members, and all because they wanted to have this exclusivity. And some people even called them kind of like, oh, elitist snobs, because they just wanted to do this for them. And in this community, you need to understand that because of the nature of the website that owned the forum, let's just say that a lot of people could have had access to copies of what they did, of what they obtained, of what they made, but they just simply didn't want to. And that left a sour taste in many of our mouths. And throughout the years after that, maybe just 2-3 years after that, I was looking everywhere on eBay. I was trying to see if one of these German members that had purchased their copy of Amalthea was selling it. We didn't care the price. We were willing to pay money for one of these copies because, as you guys know, there's no merch of this movie at all, if any, except maybe a couple of figures that were made by, I don't know who was made, but they weren't really made back then. No luck. And the German community was still doing this with other projects, particularly with now Sailor Moon projects. They did a couple Sailor Moon figures, and they even did Rose of Versailles figure that, again, did not exist. And a lot of people were not happy. A lot of people started to see the German members in a bad light because they were seen as this group that wanted exclusive garage kits. Like, that's the thing that bothered me the most. We were in this community and we were trying to get everybody what they wanted because it was so scarce and there was the possibility of doing it, and all of a sudden there was a few people inside our group that were like, you're not gonna get this. This is ours. It's like, what? I really didn't interact with a lot of these German members. I just observed the conversations that happened between them and people on our forum whenever they were being called out. They basically said, hey, this is our project, or these are our projects, and we get to decide who is part of them and who are not. Like, I guess it's their right. It was their right to do it. But it was still something pretty shitty. And the consequences of their actions was that many of the German members were being ostracized in our community because of that. Again, not all of the German members were assholes. Many of them really did think, hey, we should probably, you know, include the rest of the people outside our community to be part of these projects. But they were the few. And they were the few voices in the many. And I guess, well, yeah. As the years went by, I was still pretty bitter because of their attitudes. And by then, the forums actually died and they closed off. And the rest of us that had like this single place where we used to come together and interact with each other, all of a sudden we had nowhere else to go. But, you know, Facebook became a thing, and then we started opening Facebook groups. And that's where things started to get interesting. Now, the German community is kind of obsessed with Sailor Moon the same that they are with The Last Unicorn. In case you didn't know, The Last Unicorn is the super big thing in Germany, way bigger than probably the rest of the world. And Sailor Moon is right there with them. By this time, obtaining garage kits, original garage kits, from Japan became a little bit more accessible, more easy with the internet and with, proxies. So I actually got a hold of a very rare Sailor Moon figure. I knew that the Germans were dying to get a copy of this figure. Now, this figure was very rare in itself, and I thought, you know what? I know of a lot of people that have this figure in their wish list, but since it's out of print and it's like 20 years old, it's not produced anymore. So what if we reproduce it? And what if we get together and, make some orders and have it done? And that's what I did. I managed to get a hold of a workshop that did the work for me, that did the casting work. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to announce that I am sharing this figure with the public. But here is the part where your queen becomes this petty ass bitch. And honestly, I'm not proud of what I did. I'm not proud of how I acted. I was a very hurt person at that moment in time, particularly very hurt with the community, because we're supposed to be this tight-knit community. It's a niche hobby and the community should be tight-knit and everybody should help everybody out. But I was still pretty bitter and I had a lot of resentment against the German members. And when I got a hold of this kid, I was like, you know what? I am going to share it with whomever wants it, except the Germans. I was getting payback for what they did to the rest of us a few years back. They were doing all this and they were excluding everybody outside of the forum. And I'm like, you know what? This is my figure and it's my right to decide who I sell a copy to and who I don't. And yeah, the name of the game is petty. And yeah, like I said, I am not proud of how I acted. And in fact, as soon as German people started emailing me asking to be placed on the order list, I gave some bullshit answers. I was like, hey, thank you so much for contacting me, but you know what? I'm not able to ship anything to Germany. So yeah, I can't sell you my kit. And a lot of them actually did catch up on the bullshit and they were like, okay, fine, whatever. But a few of them actually got pretty pissed off with me in particular. Obviously because I was the one doing all this behind the scenes, and they were like, oh, one of them even called me a Nazi for not wanting to include them in my project. I'm gonna be honest, I was enjoying kicking them to the curb because of how they treated me and a lot of us outside of their forum. So I was like, this is retribution! Retribution! So yeah, I started to exclude every single one of the German that I knew that were from Germany. And I particularly asked everybody in the submission form, hey, where are you from? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And as soon as I saw Germany or Austria, I was like, oh, sorry, I can't ship anything to your country. Like I said, bullshit, but I can be petty. Like really, really petty. And I think that was the pettiest moment in my life. And after that happened, when I started to kick everybody to the curb, I actually was inside their own Facebook group that they decided to open. And let's just say that I became German public enemy number 1. The amount of comments of people bashing me and, calling me every name under the sun was just wow, just delicious. And I was reading every single one of them, and some of them knew that I was in there. The thing is, a lot of people in the forums knew each other through handles, through, what's your internet name? So my name is definitely not Leona. In case you didn't know, my real name is not Leona, and that's what I had on Facebook. So everybody knew me as Leona Senshi, and then all of a sudden, not a lot of people knew who I really was. And so the bashing began. There were so many comments, so many memes of them just being so pissed off that someone dared to exclude them from a project. And only 2 people were on my side of all of them. Only 2 people were like, hey, You shouldn't be pissed off at Leona because we did exactly the same thing to everybody outside our forum. So we had the right to exclude people back then. She has all the right to not want to sell her copy to us. So yeah, you gotta suck it up, Buttercup. Basically, that's how Armageddon went down in the community with the Germans. And ever since then, they realized this, most of the people in this community realized that the way that they were doing things was probably not the best route to take if they didn't want to get excluded themselves for future projects. Because in this community in general, since garage kits are so rare and out of print, whenever someone gets a hold, or whenever somebody would get a hold of a very rare kit and would want to share it, it would get reproduced and it would be sold in between the members of this forum. Obviously, if you say that to any Japanese modeler, they're gonna have a fucking heart attack and go into a coma because, yeah, oh my god, piracy. But hey, back then, getting garage kits was extremely hard. And that was the way to go, getting copies of, you know, somebody got an original. Oh my god, you got an original. Like, the amount of awe that people would go into as soon as somebody would mention, oh, I have an original. It was like, oh, you have an original. It's like, dude, right now it's a completely different story. Originals are really relatively easier to get, but you know, there's still a lot of hiccups in there. But either way, yeah, public enemy number one for Germans, and it stayed that way for a while. But honestly, I wore it like a badge of honor. I wore it like a badge of honor back then, but like I said, looking back on it, we're such a niche hobby. We're such a small community. Having people be against each other was not the best course of action to take in general. Not from the Germans and not from me. And this is the part where I regret my actions on all the situation. And I was, like I said, I was really bitter because they excluded us. I was particularly bitter about their Lady Amalthea figure because when you see the person that you love have the worst face of disappointment that you've seen them have in your life, you feel bad. You feel really bad because you want to give that person that you love everything that they deserve, especially if it's really rare. But I didn't get it. I didn't get to give my boyfriend something so special for him. And I was still bitter and I was still resentful because of that. And that's why I did this, well, to give them a taste of their own medicine, honestly. I'm not sugarcoating anything here because I acted like an asshole. They acted like assholes. Everybody acted like fucking assholes in this story. Where does all this lead to? It leads to me trying to figure out a way of getting my boyfriend, ever since then, a figure of the last unicorn, even if it's just Lady Amalthea. I had been thinking of ways of maybe kit bashing or converting an existing figure and make it look like Amalthea, but I failed at it every time I tried to even try it. And after years and years pass, obviously the members in the German community have, I'm not sure if they have integrated into the global GK community or they just fizzled out and just stopped being active in general. I haven't really seen them much as of the few last years to now. But obviously, getting a taste of their own medicine did change things. And after my little ordeal with them, yeah, whatever projects they decided to then make afterwards, they started to include everybody outside of their own little community. So there was change. It was positive. Still, lots of people were pissed. Lots of people were bitter. Lots of people probably got hurt. Like I said, my face was public enemy number one to the Germans for some time. After they realized the mistake in their ways, they started to change their tune and started to, like I said, integrate into the general community, which is great. With the advent of 3D printing and realizing that I could possibly contact someone to do something that I honestly don't have the skill to do. Like if I can't sculpt for shit in physical real life, I couldn't do shit, for it digitally. So I actually started to look for a 3D sculptor. I didn't know where to look, so the first place I thought of was Fiverr. And I started to look through all the artists, and I came across someone that their style fit my needs, and that's where Lou comes in. So I contacted Lou, and I was like, hey, I didn't tell her who I was. I was just like, hey, could you do this in this style? Could you do this figure? Like, could you take this picture and make it into a 3D figure? And she was like, yes, absolutely. So we started to work together, and we had a blast. We had a blast doing this project. And now my boyfriend didn't suspect the thing when I was doing all this behind closed doors with Lucia. He has a horrible ability to basically ruin his surprises. So trying to get this done without him noticing was a monumental ordeal. However, we made it through, and that's when, I surprised him on Christmas Eve with his gift. He obviously was over the moon, and he was like, where'd you get this? And I said, you are holding the only copy that exists in the world. Merry Christmas. It was an amazing moment. After more than 10 years of me trying to get my boyfriend something so special only for him, to finally see the face that he made when he opened his gift, it was priceless. It was the best moment that we've had in a long time. And honestly, with COVID and all that shit, we needed something very positive. So when I presented the figure to him, I was like, Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it. We worked really hard on it. And he was like, where'd you get this? And I was like, oh, don't worry about that. And when I gave him the figure, I told him, I am going to post this on the internet. And you know who's going to start screaming at the screen, right? And he immediately remembered, and he went, the Germans. I was like, the Germans. And I went, well, as soon as I post this, they're gonna come out of the woodworks and wanting to know more of it. So I asked him, would you like to keep this for yourself and have the only copy in existence in the world? Or would you like to have this made into, make copies out of it and sell them to whomever wants it? He was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna be an asshole. And I am actually going to go, the second route. Let's make copies and sell them to whomever they want. So we actually went through the second route, and he was like, you know what? If somebody wants this, they can have it. So that's what we did. That's how this figure came to be. That's how this project came to be. It all started with a grudge. It all started because somebody didn't want to share. That's the story behind it. Like I said, nobody in this story is painted in a positive way, me included. And if you're still watching after starting to hate watch this, I hope you will accept my apologies for how I acted back then. We were all assholes. I honestly did it on purpose. I was like, retribution, a taste of your own medicine. I was pretty bitter. But looking back on it, yeah, we could have done better. Both parties could have done better. But hey, out of that, now this project exists, and some copies are out there in the world, in the hands of people that treasure this movie as much as my boyfriend does. So yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story. I am not a person that usually shares a lot of personal stuff, especially when you're put into a very negative light. But hey, this is part of the GK community lore, and the GK community lore is filled with drama. Believe it or not. If you thought that this tight little niche community was exempt from it? No. Oh dear God, no. There's a lot of drama, and this is just a little bit of the drama saga in all the bigger picture of this community. But maybe I'll share more tea in a later video. I don't know. That's why this video is unlisted. That's why I'm giving it to my patrons and to my channel members, because I don't think a lot of people are interested in this story, but if you are, great. And if you're one of the people that still hate my guts over this, well, now you know why I did it. It was because it wasn't just me, it was a lot of more people in the community, and I just happened to have the upper hand one day to get you to see the error in your ways. It wasn't the best way to do it, but hey, it worked. And now we're not a big happy family, but hey, at least there's no more exclusions anymore. Because a lot of the German members that excluded me from their project ended up ordering one of my Amalthea kits. Enjoy, enjoy. Until next time, hope you enjoy it. Bye.